What's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Redefining Issued Equipment. And in this video we're going to be going over a Rifleman setup for the KDH plate carrier, or as it's also known, the soldier plate carrier system. So that way, as a whole, this system will enable you when you're out on mission, working in that operational environment and filling that role as a rifleman, and as well as enhancing your ability to shoot, move, communicate, and medicate. So with that, a quick caveat, this is going to be kind of an echo of the general purpose video that we have set up for this plate carrier. There's a lot of similarities, but there are a few little things that we want to add into this just to talk on some of the rifleman stuff that I've seen and done in the past. And that way you have kind of a better idea of how you can set up your kit specific to that rifleman position. So with that, starting up top, at the top of the plate carrier, we have a small low light output, or just a low lumen output headlamp that's mounted to the front plate bag. This is a red and white light capable one. If you want something that's a little bit more capable than just red and white, I would recommend looking into Surefire, Streamlight, and Princeton Tech for a light that has blue light as well as IR light on top of that white and red. With that blue light, it's going to help with your medical type of situations where you're dealing with a casualty, dealing with bleeds, treating those wounds and all of that stuff. That blue light is going to highlight all of that blood. And then that IR light is also for your nighttime situations when you need to be completely under night vision and conceal your position as much as possible. So really dealing specifically with that noise and light discipline piece. So take a look at all those companies when it comes down to it. This is a good light if you want to just keep it simple and streamlined. Great option, and it's just a backup to any other lights that you may have. In addition to that light, we also have a small admin pouch up front here. I'm not big on admin pouches, but I know a lot of guys are. For those of you that do or may want to have an admin pouch, I would recommend keeping it just low profile and as streamlined as possible. Specific with this plate carrier, the First Spear GRG pouch is a really good option. It's really streamlined, really low profile. It doesn't interfere with magazines and all of that. And you do have quite a bit of space for map markers, pens, pencils, paper, map cutouts, GRGs, and any other administrative data that you may need on mission. So this is a good option when it comes down to it. But the biggest takeaway is make sure it's that low profile, so that way it's not going to interfere with pulling mags out of your magazine pouches and conducting those tac mags, bolt lock reloads, and emergency reloads that you may need to do. So with that, directly underneath that admin pouch, we do have a couple of cleaning rod sections. 3 to 4 is plenty. Just hair tie those to the molly, and then that way you have those cleaning rod sections to be able to punch out ruptured casings, damaged rounds, anything that could lock that firearm up. You want those cleaning rod sections there to help you out when it comes down to it. So I know with the M4s, every now and then you'll get a ruptured casing, or you'll just get a casing that gets lodged in that chamber, especially with foreign weapons. Any Russian platform or any platform that is shooting steel-cased ammo, they have a tendency, or they're more susceptible to having a ruptured casing and or getting around locked up into that chamber. So having those to be able to punch out any foreign weapons or foreign partner weapons helps out a lot in keeping guns in the fight. So something to keep in mind, and something that I would recommend every person has on their kit. Now, with this specific plate carrier, I would recommend going out and purchasing your own magazine pouches and or magazine panels, because some of the issued stuff, the way that the molly is set up, it's slightly offset to the left or to the right, which will then shift your entire magazine panel or pouches to the left or to the right. So going out and purchasing something that you can control where those molly straps are is a really good idea. On this one, we have the Tac Taylor Fight Light triple mag panel. It's also got the elastic pull tabs on there, so it is going to retain your mags, so you can operate land, sea, or air. It doesn't matter. It will retain your equipment for you. And then if you want to stack another one of those on top to give you 6 mags, or offset some mag pouches to the left and to the right, you can also do that. And then last but not least, I always like to add the Blue Force Gear 10-speed pouches on top of that magazine panel on the front of my plate carrier to be able to run GPSs, compasses, or any other mission essential equipment that you may specifically want. It could even be lookies and shoes and all that stuff. So just food for thought when it comes down to it. With these 10 speeds, I would recommend going with the newer stackable versions. It does have that pull tab at the top, which makes inserting equipment into the pouches much easier. and then you also have MOLLE on the front to be able to add any other additional equipment that you may want to have front loaded on your kit, whether it's an admin pouch, multi-tool, whatever the case may be. Having that definitely makes it a much more functional pouch. Now, in addition to that, some other things that I've seen guys do with just a basic Rifleman kit, they'll take an admin pouch roughly around the same size as this guy. They'll mount it on top of their magazine pouches, and then that way they have that space for any mission essential equipment. It is a good option, very common nowadays. So that is an option as well that you can go with. And then another thing that I've seen a lot of riflemen do recently is they'll take either a flapped pouch similar to this Eagle Industry one that we have here, or they'll take these Blue Force Gear 10-speed pouches and they'll mount them to the sides of their cummerbund to be able to kind of distribute all of those magazines that they may be carrying, because some organizations combat load 7 mags, some of it's 10, just kind of depends on who's in charge at the time. But being able to carry all of those magazines and the ammunition that you need is going to be key for this setup. So just a couple of options when it comes down to it. One thing that I would recommend when it comes to mags on your kit, have 3 up front on the front of your plate carrier, offset 1 or 2 to the cummerbund. If you have a gun belt, run 1 on your gun belt and then have 1 on 1 in your gun, and that should help kind of fill at least that 7 mag minimum, to where you're not having all of your mags front loaded right onto the front of your kit, because that can be problematic and it can push your body up high enough off the ground to where you can't get in a good prone position and get behind cover and protect yourself in a gunfight. So just keep that in mind. Distribute those magazines, don't double stack them. It's going to help you out in the long run. Some guys prefer double stacking. It is still a very viable option when it comes down to it. Just want to give you guys food for thought when it comes to setting up your kit. With that, bottom of the plate carrier and or on the sides of your magazine panels, I would recommend throwing all of your tourniquets. You have 1 on either side, and then you can have, if you want to run 2, 1 on either side, and then the other option is 1 on the bottom of the plate carrier and then 1 on your belt. That way the 2 tourniquets that you have, regardless of their position, are going to be front loaded and center mounted, so that way when it comes to self aid and buddy aid, those tourniquets can be quickly applied and deal with that extremity wound and keep you alive and hopefully in the fight. So just keep that in mind when it comes to tourniquet placement. Front and center is the best place for it. Now, one of the carryovers that we have from the general purpose pouch is going to be radio setups and configs. I would recommend, if you're a rifleman, especially with all the stuff going on in the world right now, have a radio setup in mind on your kit, whether it's a push-to-talk and just a radio pouch, or a push-to-talk, a radio pouch, an antenna relocation for a rigid antenna or a extendable antenna, or have just a body whip. Any one of those configurations is going to set you up for success in the event something happens to somebody above you or a leader. It's going to be one of those, and falls into that, learn the job of 2 guys above you and teach your job to the guy below you, so that way no matter what happens, you can fill a role and stay in the fight, communicate what's going on, and help that whole situation hopefully be alleviated and become a solution rather than become a solution to the problem and a force multiplier rather than a liability. So with that, when it comes to push-to-talk setups and all that, I would recommend go with an inexpensive Nexus U94. They're super cheap. They don't cost a whole lot of money. And then just use a hair tie to maintain control of that push-to-talk up at the top of your plate carrier, and then use hair ties to control and maintain your cables and manage all of that cable, so that way it doesn't get caught up on the environment, your other equipment that you may be carrying, and potentially sever that connection when it comes to the push-to-talk connecting to the radio. So simple setup that we have right here with the Arbor Arms elastic cummerbund. We've just hair tied our push-to-talk to the MOLLE on the front of the plate carrier, and then we've hair tied the excess into the connector for the Arbor Arms system, like so. And then from there you just pull this out, connect it into the radio, and you should be good to go. I would just go with a very simple, low profile radio pouch. When it comes to running a radio pouch, when it's not in use, you can use it for other stuff, other mission essential equipment, food, water, whatever the case may be. You can run all of that in there, and then when you do need it, it's there for you to be able to employ. I believe this is the Mystery Ranch radio pouch, if I remember correctly, or it may be the First Spear one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but First Spear, Tier, Tac Taylor, ATS, Mystery Ranch. There's a couple of other companies out there, really good radio pouches, and some things that you can kind of bounce off of and compare products when it comes to all those. So with that, moving on to the back side of the plate carrier and part of the back side of the cummerbund. When it comes to managing all of your cables, I would recommend running all of your antenna relocator cables and or body whip antennas in between you and the cummerbund. It will just protect that cable from being severed and cut, so that way you can maintain communications at all times. And then just hair tie those to the cummerbund. Super simple, nothing crazy. And then as it weaves into the back of your plate carrier, you're just going to weave that cable through the molly, and then weave it through like so, and then have the top of that antenna poking out the top, so that way you get good connectivity, or you can transmit and receive radio traffic clearly. With that, when it comes to some of the other things that you can do to the back of this plate carrier, you do have some options. If you want to run zipper panels, you can purchase the Cry Precision zipper add-ons for your plate carrier. You don't have to go with a Cry Precision panel. You can go with IDO gear. They have a pretty good reputation right now, amongst a lot of the SOCOM community, and they cost a fraction of the price of some of the Cry Precision options that are out there. So you do have a couple of options with that. Some of them are pocketed, some of them are molly. When it comes down to it, you just pick whatever's going to work best for you. The nice thing with some of the pocketed versions is you can name tape the different pockets and all that stuff, and then that way you can kind of segregate and isolate your equipment specific to different roles and all that stuff. So some options when it comes down to it. There's usually a bladder pocket that you can throw your hydration bladders and all that stuff into, so that's an option as well. And then some of them have tool pockets that will extend out to where you can run manual breaching tools and all that. So a couple of options when it comes down to it. You don't have to pay the $150 something that you'll probably pay for Cry. You can pay $50 and then $20 or $30 for the zipper add-ons, and you have the same end state and same capable platform. But internal on that zipper panel, I would recommend running 20 to 30 feet of tubular nylon. It's going to be good for all of your improvised litters, Swiss seats, or improvised rappelling harnesses, as well as drag lines, so that way you can deal with casualties and enhance your ability to maneuver over terrain and all that stuff. So I would recommend having that on there. It's just simply hair tied to the plate carrier itself, and then you have all of this additional space for med kits or any other mission essential equipment that you may want to carry. My recommendation is utilize this space for a vacuum sealed med kit. You can hair tie that into place and or tape it into place, or have a special pouch that you put in here for that med kit, and then just have a pull tab down at the bottom of the plate carrier, so that way you can pull that med kit out and employ it as needed, and it's all kind of concealed within the zipper panel and protected from the environment and all that stuff, so that way when you need that equipment, it's going to work for you rather than against you. The other reason why I kind of like having zipper panels is if you're running tubular nylon, this does have a tendency to get caught on the terrain, so having that zipper panel will protect that from getting caught up on the environment, and then having to force you to roll it back up and restow it and all that stuff. So I would recommend, if you do this, utilize the zipper panel, because it will make your life a lot better and a lot easier. With that, if you do go with a molly panel like you see this, or like you see here, there's a ton of different ways that you can set this up. It's really going to be dependent on your mission and what equipment is mission essential. So with that, typically what I've seen and what I've done in the past, you'll have flashbang smokes and other grenade systems up here at the top, and then you can run a admin pouch down here at the bottom, or if you have some sort of other role that you need to fill in other mission essential equipment, you can run 2 horizontal pouches. You can run 2 vertical pouches similar to this guy that we have here, so you can run those side by side, or you can mix it up and you can adjust it. You can run some smaller 4x6, 5x5, 6x6 general purpose pouches and kind of distribute that load to where you can have some frags, smoke, flashbangs, an assortion of all of that, or an assorted setup of all of that. You can have that small general purpose pouch, horizontal pouch, or you can move that general purpose pouch down here and then have a vertical pouch. It really just comes down to what are your specific needs for that mission. So with that, it kind of sums it up as far as just a basic Rifleman setup. There really isn't a whole lot to it. So if you have any questions, please feel free, leave a comment. We will help you out in any way that we can. And with that, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.